You saw a confidence team get an early goal, remember how to play football.
I don't want to come down too hard on Erik ten Hag, but there needs to be an investigation into some crimes against football.
Some of the saves that he's made have been absolutely fantastic.
Is he already one of our most important players?
I found him very humble, very down-to-earth, very dedicated professional.
When Alex Ferguson came and phoned me and he said, I'm going to call you again before Christmas. Well, I made the wrong way.
Manchester United can play through. They have got the talent and the pace in the top end of the pitch to really turn us around.
If you let Bukayo Saka do that,
Yeah.
if you let Odegaard do that, if you let Declan Rice dispossess you there,
Yeah.
you're in big trouble. Hello and welcome to Inside Devils, talkSPORT's Man Utd show, bringing you the very latest news coming out from Old Trafford each and every week. What a week it's been with Ruben Amorim winning his opening games at the Theatre of Dreams. Goals, goals, goals galore. And joining me this week is Alex Crook. There he is there, Angelina Kelly and Athletics Carl Anka. They're all in there, they're all in situ, they're all ready to go because it has been a fantastic week. So let's kick off with the thrashing that we gave Everton. On Sunday, braces for both Marcus Rashford and Joshua Xirkzee, and also Ruben Amorim with his first Premier League win. Carl, we'll start off with you, mate. Listen, are we witnessing the classic new manager bounce, or are we seeing, that Amorim is developing these players this early on?
I think you saw a confidence team get an early goal, remember how to play football, and then eventually turn the screw on a team that they're just a lot better than. The first 25 minutes at Old Trafford, you saw Amorim in two modes. One, where he sort of got his hands in the air, bemoaning at United losing possession cheaply.
He was not happy.
And the other mode is him doing a sort of Bielsa or Pochettino-esque squat, where he's looking for passing angles. You're going to see that a lot of times at Old Trafford, I think. I was genuinely watching that first 25, 30 minutes, thinking Amorim might make a triple sub at half-time. But then you get the goal, a set-piece goal, one that apparently was devised by Carlos Fernandes, the assistant manager. And after the races, everyone realised how good Amad Diallo is once again.
I mean, onto that, Crookie. Amad Diallo, Carl just spoke about it there. He seems to be getting better and better each week. Are we witnessing the start of a huge Man United career for him? Is he already one of our most important players?
I think we are, and actually I think we started to witness that at the end of last season with that dramatic goal he scored against Liverpool in the FA Cup quarter-final. You could see what it meant to him. I interviewed him before the Cup final. I found him very humble, very down-to-earth, very dedicated professional. And I thought then, this is a guy that maybe United can build the team around. We know that there are talks underway about a new contract. They simply have to get him locked down. And it makes it even more baffling when you see that the type of performances that he's been producing, that Erik ten Hag refused to use him, didn't he, towards the end of his tenure? He picked Mazraoui in the number 10 role instead. He's obviously playing a different role under Ruben Amorim as one of those attacking wing-backs. But he's such a good professional, such a good athlete, that he can basically play anywhere. And I think if United are to get any success at Arsenal in midweek, then he will be central to it.
Yeah, he will. I have to say, I don't want to come down too hard on Erik ten Hag. We're post that now. But there needs to be an investigation into some crimes against football. Honestly, the fact...
Steady on.
Well, yeah, probably a bit strong. But, I don't understand how he kept him out for so long. Then Amad was showing signs, knocking on the door, and it almost felt like he couldn't wait to get Garnacho back in there as well. And it's just a real shame we haven't seen more of him. The fans were starting to see what a naturally beautiful footballer he is. And it just proves that actually he's able to take on instructions, he's able to adapt his game to what Ruben Amorim's asking him to do. And you know what the biggest thing I like about Amad is? It's not just the individual talent, because he has bags of that. It's the selflessness. When he gets into the right positions, when he can see the back pages and all the social media memes all the social media clips be about him getting a goal, he's like, no, the right thing to do is to give the right weight of pass and just pass it to Xirkzee so he can score. He's just a really selfless character. Another player I want to talk about, actually, guys, especially to you, Angelina, is about Joshua Xirkzee, because you, as many others have been, you guys at home as well, have been demanding a lot more from him. It's been a tough start for his Manchester United career. We all know that. It seems like an absolute decade ago already, since that Fulham goal he scored on the opening day. But are we starting to see a little bit more confidence from him? 2 goals from him, a good performance from him.
Yep.
Does Ruben Amorim's style suit him more?
I think it does. I mean, you look, when he was in the starting 11, I was extremely shocked. I did not expect it. But he looked so confident. And he, you know, how many times have we seen him where he's really looked like he's lacking pace? Like I say, the confidence. So to see him get a full game and to do well, that's all that fans wanted to see. I think that it does suit him, but I think overall what we're seeing here is that he is under, and you know, like we said, we don't want to hate on Ten Hag too much, but I think he is simply being coached by a better coach. You know, Ruben Amorim's spoken a lot about how he likes to figure out players, how all players are individuals, and he said it doesn't take me that long to figure somebody out. I know that he's spoken in a recent interview about how he himself has had a psychologist, how he's aware of things like that. And I think what we're seeing is somebody who understands man management a lot more, is a lot more charismatic. Because, I mean, even us, if you're saying to me, you've got Ruben Amorim and Erik ten Hag, who are you going to want to play more for? And I'm not saying that's right or wrong, but I think Ruben Amorim does win that. But I think what we saw from Xirkzee, those goals that he scored a couple of weeks ago, you'd have your head in your hands because you would have missed them. So I think to see that, that's all that United fans wanted to see, was just to see some progression, to see that where he fits. And I think that he does fit in that position. I don't know if I would start him for the Arsenal game because I do think the pace is still lacking. Yeah. But overall, I was really impressed with him. And like I say, if you'd have told me a couple of weeks ago that he'd have scored 2 goals, I would have laughed in your face. And I also feel like, I don't know if it was me or Crookie, or it might have been both
Probably
of us,
both of you, to be fair.
that were maybe saying, get rid of him in January.
Jeez, you see what I have to deal with, Carl? This is what's going on here, Carl.
Have I made that? I feel like we might have said that.
Crookie and you probably did say that. Yeah, bit harsh. But they're scathing, Carl. They really, really are. For you, Carl, I want to talk about Bruno Fernandes, actually, because 2 more assists for him. I think there were some worries in the fan base, and especially particularly online, that since he signed that new contract, what's gone on here? You know, is he going down a deep, dark place? But, you know, since Erik ten Hag's left, you know, 4 games under Ruud van Nistelrooy, he's got back in the goals and the assists, and more to follow under Ruben Amorim. Is he thriving in this 3-4-3? Do you think he can reach some new levels now?
That's a very interesting question. So, I think Fernandes is not so great start to the season has to do with fatigue. I mean, this is a football player who has played, frankly, an astonishing, if not concerning, amount of football for Manchester United in the last 2 or 3 seasons. And while he doesn't break down in the same way that other players have, there are times where he waxes and wanes and he can't quite run in the same way that other players can, understandably. I think that was exacerbated this calendar year playing on this Erik ten Hag system where the press was very, very high, the defence was very, very low, and there was just this huge gap in midfield. And when you're someone like Bruno Fernandes who wants to get close to goal, you're constantly having to hit long balls over the top, trying to get it to a front 3 that wasn't necessarily making the ball stick. And then by the time you got back up top, the ball was lost, so you had to get all the way back to help defend. So he was tired. And I think a lot of these players that if you look at Manchester United going, oh, why are they underperforming? Are they tired? Could be a decent answer. I think in this new 3-4-3, 3-4-2-1, however you want to call it, Amorim says we don't need to get too bogged down.
Yeah,
in it
he hates that, doesn't he?
Because you know, it changes when you're in and out of possession. It changes when you're in your own half. It changes when you're in the final third and whatnot. I think Fernandes has shown potential as one of the 10s behind the striker, the dual 10 system. But also that will change based on the other players in that front 3. I think Fernandes and Rashford behind Xirkzee is a very different front 3 to Fernandes and Mount behind Hojlund, because all those players want different things. What was also interesting was after the Ipswich game, Amorim talked about how Fernandes is very good at the long pass, but there are times you want to get him close to goal, which is, I think, something you're going to hear a lot about from Amorim. Amorim keeps talking about physicality and talking about the need for physicality, saying this team isn't quite physical enough. But he's also described the physicality as a link to how the team plays when they have the ball. So essentially, you don't have to run up and down all the time if you're using the ball carefully enough. And I think that's going to be one of the challenges for Fernandes. Fernandes is a player who likes to make things happen, but this sometimes means he tries a risky pass rather than a safe sideways pass in order to keep the ball. This will take time.
Yeah. And I have seen him actually, weirdly, even under Ruud van Nistelrooy, some games, I don't know if you've noticed it, Carl and yourself, Crookie, and you, Angelina, like, he's sometimes going to make a pass or the game's a bit frantic. And I've seen Bruno be the one to calm it down and say, when the crowd's going, "Oh, Bruno, get it foot," and he goes, "No, just let's just." And I'm going,
There was
this ain't the Bruno I know.
It was a brilliant bit towards the end of the first half, where Bruno passes it towards Xirkzee, who's sort of close to the halfway line, and as he passes to Xirkzee, he puts his hand out, as a, slow it down, and then Xirkzee hits this left-footed switch pass 30 yards across, and you could see Bruno go, "No, I told you to slow it down," and you could also see Bruno go, "Oh, that's what it feels like."
Yeah,
when
it's
when
really
someone tells me to slow it down.
Yeah, Bruno of all people telling everyone to slow it down and look after the ball better is quite astonishing. But it is a very visual, contrast for him to be like, actually, I've noticed the difference in him. He's being more patient.
I think what helps is also
go on.
there's just
Go on, Carl.
What also helps is there's also more playmakers.
Yeah.
Right?
He's not just everything going through him, right?
Bruno wants to play fast because that's how he's always done it. Now, there have been spells when there have been other players out there who can offer some form of slowness. So Paul Pogba, when Pogba was in the team, Pogba also likes to play fast. So they were all catalysts, go. When Christian Eriksen came in his first season at Erik ten Hag, Eriksen appreciates keeping it slow. So those two worked quite well. So now, if you have a setup where it is Fernandes, Casemiro, Mainu, and then you have Ahmad, who's another playmaker, Bruno doesn't have to hit 6 Hollywood passes a game because Ahmad can also do a couple of passes as well. So I think that's also useful. It's not necessarily the shape, but also who's around him and and what are their responsibilities going forward.
Absolutely. It's definitely something that we're going to see continue to blossom. Crookie, in terms of the striking position, I know, you've been very critical of Marcus Rashford, as have many of us. And we spoke about what it would be like under Amorim, didn't we? Can he get himself going again? Can he get confident again? Can he score goals again? Rasmus Hojlund, we've spoken about as well, with work to be done. But goals for him. And now Xirkzee's entered the chat. How are you seeing the striking situation as it stands? Are we still in need of a top drawer number 9? Or are you comfortable with Ruben Amorim that actually between Marcus Rashford, Rasmus and Joshua Xirkzee, he could sort of rotate until he maybe gets what he wants?
I think that's probably a decision that won't be made until the end of the season. I know there's been some talk this week about Victor Gyökeres and United accelerating talks with him ahead of a potential January move. I don't want to shatter anybody's illusions, but I think that's fanciful, to be honest, from a financial perspective. And I've written about it in my notebook on the talkSPORT website this week as well, that Gyökeres certainly is not pushing to leave Sporting in January. I think he's perfectly content to carry on as he is and see what options are there in the summer. So I think it will be rotation up front between now and the end of the season, an opportunity for Xirkzee and Hojlund in particular to prove they can be that number 9. Marcus Rashford is a fascinating case study, I think, because if you sit him down, he'll tell you that he prefers to play coming in from the left-hand side. But actually, some of his best games for United have been down the middle, and clearly that's where Amorim sees him to the best of his capability. I think he'll probably play there again against Arsenal on Wednesday night. And we know that Rashford is a streaky player. When he's not scoring, he can go a long time without a goal. When he is scoring, suddenly he can go on runs of purple patches. So let's hope this can continue. And I think, again, he's going to be one of those players, Hojlund the same, and Xirkzee, that will benefit. And there's a lot of United players in this squad who just need to be properly coached. And again, it's not beating Erik ten Hag. It's not kicking a man where he's down. But it did look like that squad was undercoached up until Amorim has come in.
Yeah, it did. I mean, I caught up with Rasmus Hojlund after his couple of goals against Bodo Glimt, and essentially pretty much credit him with the first goal as well, really, if the keeper didn't wrestle him down. But I asked him, how is he working on trying to battle with defenders versus bringing people into play versus trying to be in the box and get more service? And he said it was a good but difficult question to answer, but he was saying he's been having conversations with the coaches and of just how to understand the league, how to understand the position better, because he is still young, isn't he?
Yeah.
We're waiting for him to understand how to lead that line more effectively, and he's getting there. Another player who's really, really improved, not just under Ruben Amorim, but just this season, Andre Onana, Angelina. He's been absolutely fantastic. Another clean sheet for him, that's 6 in total.
Yep.
Has he got a claim of being the best keeper in the league, one of the best keepers in the league, or is this just momentary, or is it too early to say?
Yeah, after the Bayern Munich game, he took full responsibility. He's not afraid to hold his hands up. I really like the way that he speaks. And there was a stat that I mentioned last week, and I'll mention it again. If you go back to those first 12 Premier League games, I want to make sure I get this right. He's first in post-shot expected goals minus goals allowed. So he's essentially kept out the most shots that he technically on paper shouldn't be saving. And I think we can all agree that some of the saves that he's made have been absolutely fantastic. To have that many clean sheets, especially after how shaky he was, I think he deserves a lot of credit. And I think, for me personally, overall in this season, I think he definitely is in the top 5 Premier League keepers. I think at this moment in time, I think there is an argument for him to be in the top 3 goalkeepers. You look at Alisson. Alisson is injured, fair enough. Still a great goalkeeper. Edison has not been the goalkeeper that we're used to seeing. You look at people, I mean, like Robert Sanchez isn't really coming into it. The Spurs goalkeeper isn't really coming into it. Obviously, you have someone like David Raya, who is a great goalkeeper. Emi Martinez, there's a reason why he's got the accolades that he's got. But I think in this moment in time...
Keller has been really good as well.
Yeah, that's another great one as well. And I think at this moment in time, I think there's an argument for top 3. I think overall in this season, he's definitely in the top 5. And I think to see the way that he's come on in leaps and bounds, it's brilliant, and it's just what Man United fans wanted to see. So yeah, really happy for him.
Yeah, I like what he's done. I mean, I had massive reservations last year. I was really worried.
There were some shaky moments.
Some real bad ones, and he's done really well to sort of compose himself and start showing his true self. I honestly thought that, you see some of the saves we've been talking about, but we've been seeing. My analysis of him last year was, I don't think he has the ability to make top class saves.
Yeah.
That was but recently he has made some really big ones, which is absolutely fantastic. Lastly, Carl, I wanted to ask you about our style of play. And I know Ruben Amorim is very I love the way he speaks about this, because he's saying, please stop over-hyping the 3-4-3, or whether it's 4 at the back, 3 at the back, 5 at the back. It's more about the understanding of the game. And that is what we're seeing with certain players. How have you assessed our style, our identity, this idea that Ruben promised us we would see from day one at Ipswich, which we have? How have you assessed it, and how do you think the players are getting on with it versus how Ruben wants them to take on information?
It's a good idea. So I spoke to not a Premier League. I spoke to a club analysis working for a top club at Europe, and they said it's not necessarily at the cutting edge of football, but what it does do is it gets a lot out of athletic players who are very, very intelligent. So the concern when Amorim arrived was, does Manchester United have the legs and the deceptive dark arts that Sporting have? And that was Everton and Sporting's 4-1 victory over Manchester City. And while the answer isn't a resounding yes at the moment, there is, what we've seen already, an understanding of these players that something is changing, and they need to not do what they were doing a month ago in November, or a month ago in October. So that's good. There are players who I think, if you look at this lineup, will certainly take to this a lot quicker than others. You look at a player like Mason Mount, very, very effective under Thomas Tuchel in a 3-4-2-1. He's definitely going to be a player that will be useful in this. Emmanuel Petit, he knows it under Sporting, so that will be good. There are also players where you're looking at this and going, this might be a bit difficult.
You're in trouble.
So say let's take a player like Christian Eriksen, a phenomenal football player. I've greatly enjoyed watching him for Tottenham Hotspur for years, but also he's coming to perhaps towards the end of his career. Now, he's not the most natural choice to be one of the central midfielders in the partnership. And also, if you want to put him in one of the number 10 positions behind the centre forward, there's a lot of competition there. Now you've got Ahmad, Garnacho, Rashford, Fernandes, and others. So, yes, I think this is the start of a journey that will probably take seasons, not months. But the promising thing already is that there are 2 or 3 players that you can tell are looking forward to this. I do want to go back to what Xirkzee said about Marcus Rashford probably playing up front against Arsenal. I'm not having that.
No.
I think this actually will be a game for, strange enough, Xirkzee. He's probably the best suited to playing against Arsenal centre forwards. Amorim said that the centre forward position is not Rashford's best role after what happened against Ipswich. He said he had to spend a lot of time battling 2 giants. And we know that his hold-up play is not to the same level as Rasmus Hojlund, let alone to the same level as Xirkzee. And I think if you are playing up against Saliba and Gabriel, you do need someone who is good wrestling with their back to goal and who can drag those centre-backs out of position. So it might be a game better suited for Xirkzee compared to everyone else, as strange as that might be to say.
Xirkzee, big shout that instead of Rasmus. Maybe Rashford is a 10? Surely Rashford's got to start away at the Emirates. Surely.
I think Rashford.
He's got a very good record. He's got a very good record there.
Left 10. Big thank you there to Carl Anka from The Athletic. Thank you for sharing your insight with us. Next up on the show, it's time to head over to the stat man. It's time to see what Ryon Douglas has to say. Now it's that part of the show where we delve into some of the key takeaways from the game that was. And after a convincing victory over Everton, we're expecting them to be a lot more positive. To take us through some of the stats you may not have seen, please welcome Ryon Scott-Douglas. Ryon, what have you got?
Yes, cheers for that, Flex. I'm here, Ryon Scott-Douglas reporting for duty. And hey, we ate good. We ate good, didn't we? Manchester United beating Everton 4-0. So, again, we've seen possession. We've seen shots on target. Let's have a deep dive and have some key takeaways here. The first one, on a positive note, finally, I can say Manchester United's 4-0 win over Everton at Old Trafford under Ruben Amorim is the biggest margin of victory for a permanent manager in their first home match in this competition for the club. As I say, we ate well, and this is a fantastic result for a first home match for Ruben Amorim. And I have to say, it was the complete performance. It was, because you talk about Onana. Now he's got 6 clean sheets, along with the defence there as well. There's 2 goals in the first half, 2 goals in the second half, 2 assists for Diallo, 2 assists for Bruno, 2 goals for Rashford, and 2 for Xirkzee, who are our forward players. So look, this was fantastic. And I'm going to move on to another stat here. And we're going to actually talk about Marcus Rashford. I'm going to piggyback on the back of it, because his goal, 20 seconds in to the second half, is Manchester United's fastest second half goal on record since 2006-07 season. He beat Paul Scholes' record against Newcastle in January 2007. That is phenomenal for Marcus Rashford, and quick starts continue to be the key here. Now, look, Amorim, his dynamic is going to be fast starts because of the press. He wants an aggressive press. He wants to overload areas. I've said he can be zonal or he can man mark, but he wants a quick press. He talks about Casemiro looking over his shoulder. Shall I press? Shall I press? Yes, press. And you know what? We talk about Amad Diallo. That's exactly what he does. He presses fast and aggressive. 2 goals come directly from Amad Diallo's press, and that is exactly how you're supposed to do it. Now, Marcus Rashford, the benefactor of this. We've spoken about his confidence. Erik ten Hag benched him after he broke his duct after such a goalless run. He scores, he gets benched. What does that do for his confidence? But under Ruben Amorim, and I'll move you on here, this is what a stat this is. Marcus Rashford has now scored in back-to-back Premier League matches for Manchester United. Under Amorim, 3 goals, and that is as many goals in his previous 23 matches under both Ruud van Nistelrooy and Erik ten Hag. Now, look, I know I'm the stat man. That's a bit harsh on Ruud. He only had a few bites at the cherry, and he did fantastically. By the way, a quick word on those games under Ruud, seeing as his name's there. What a handover that was. I think we will always look back to that handover where he steadied the ship, dispelled the negativity, and gave a great handover over to Ruben Amorim. So thank you, Ruud. We've said it once, we'll say it again. And Marcus Rashford again, the benefactor now of Ruben Amorim's system. I've said it on my Football Manager file. I play him just behind the striker. But that fluidity of the 3, Xirkzee as well, has benefited from this, guys. He looks like he scored 2 goals, but that wasn't the headline for Xirkzee. The way he connected the play, the way he sometimes no-look passing into the path of the wingers, into Marcus Rashford. He looks like he's benefiting from this system as well. But Marcus Rashford, smile on his face again, and 2 goals. So fantastic for him. Now, a final stat here, and we talk about Bruno Fernandes. This guy, for me, can do no wrong. I never criticised this guy. I've criticised so many Manchester United legends. I mean, when Cristiano Ronaldo joined, he's too greedy, he's too this. Bruno, he avoids criticism for me because I tell you something, he is an absolute machine, and this stat backs it up. He's now provided 2 or more assists in a single Premier League match for the 5th time. He matches Ryan Giggs, who's done it 17 times, Wayne Rooney, David Beckham 11, Cantona and Paul Pogba Paul Pogba disrespected? Maybe that's for another show. But he's done so on so many occasions for Manchester United now. What I liked about this Bruno Fernandes performance, as I say, 2 assists. You know, he's not greedy, we know that. But he drops into the midfield. He pads out the midfield, turned it into a midfield 3 at points. He supports the channels. He can play down the middle as well. He was so fluid. And we've talked about Ruben Amorim's pivoting and changing his system and his style. Yes, on paper, it's a 3-4-2-1, but the front 3 will be fluid. The midfield will be fluid. Kobbie Mainoo's going to have some shots. Bruno's going to come and be a deep line playmaker, which with Kobbie Mainoo's suspension, I wouldn't be adverse to him dropping a little bit back and being a deep line playing midfielder, but I digress. Bruno Fernandes was absolutely fantastic. For me, Amad Diallo was sensational, but he was the man of the match. He's the maestro. He's pulling the strings, continues to be our captain, my captain, leading by example. But I tell you guys, Manchester United 4, Everton 0, we ate well, a complete performance. Dare I say, bring on Arsenal? I don't know. I'll leave that to you guys. But once again, Ryon Scott-Douglas reporting for duty.
Next up, it's a fierce rivalry that stretches back decades and still has fans marking their calendars on the fixture release date. It's, of course, Manchester United versus Arsenal. Before we look ahead to the big clash on Wednesday night, we crossed over to the enemy lines to catch up with Arsenal legend Emmanuel Petit, who shares his fondest memories of the famous fixture and just how close he was to joining the Red Devils in 2001.
When we won the title in 1998, at the end of the season, after Christmas time, we had 13 points ahead, behind Manchester United, and we had probably 3 or 4 games in hand. We knew that if we were able to win all those games, we will play the Premier League final away at Old Trafford, and that's exactly what happened. And we won the game. It was an amazing game to play. After the game, we knew that nothing could stop us, you know. But I remember the semi-final, the FA Cup semi-final, I think it was in Birmingham, and we lost with this amazing goal from Ryan Giggs, probably one of the best goals so far in FA Cup history. And before that, Dennis missed a penalty, and but it was a great game and one of the best, you know, in the FA Cup history. Yeah.
Even though you were on the losing side.
Yes, we lost, but. Fair enough. I think Manchester United, you know, they won the treble, I think, that year. And they were probably the best team in the world.
Would Arsene Wenger change the tactics specifically for a Man United game or give you different instructions for a Man United game?
No, I think we used to play the same tactic position all the time. We used to play on 4-4-3 or 4-4-2 most of all, and were always the players in the same position. The rivalry between Arsene and Alex Ferguson was great to watch. It was entertaining as a player as well, because I remember so many times, you know, they were shouting to themselves, you know, on the bench, and the rivalry was huge as well between Arsenal and Manchester United, because Manchester United, they were the king of the Premier League with Alex Ferguson, and all of a sudden, Arsene Wenger came and he tried to build a different team, different style of play, and it worked. And surprising, it worked very well, because we won the double the second year, and we started to become the best rival of Manchester United. Yeah. I think the Premier League, you know, became famous because of those guys, because of those derbies, those games, you know, and becomes famous abroad because of that.
Who was the toughest United player you ever faced?
Well, I would probably say 2 guys. They had so many great players with great mentality, winners, leaders on the pitch. But it's funny why you're asking me this question, because we used to talk about that with Patrick Vieira, with Robert Pires, players like this, and we all say the same thing. If I can name 2 players that we were always focused on them all the time when they were touching the ball on the pitch, it was Scholes and Giggs.
But you weren't worried about the midfield battles with the Roy Keanes and
battles?
That was for Patrick.
Battles is only battles. I'm not sure you win games with battles. You win games with intelligent players, with great players that can make a huge difference on the pitch. If you have only warriors on the pitch, well, most of the Premier League team back in days had warriors in their teams. Most of them didn't win anything at all because you need something special on top of it.
Would you have liked to play for Manchester United if you had the opportunity?
Yes, when I was playing for Barcelona, when I left Arsenal, after a couple of weeks, I knew that I made a mistake. And Arsene Wenger came to Barcelona and tried to convince me to come back to Arsenal. But it was very, very tempting for me to come back to Arsenal, but it's like a divorce. I still have a huge respect for Arsenal, but since then, you know, Alex Ferguson phoned me twice, and I was so stupid back in days. I make so many mistakes in football, but as well in my private life, and I have a big regret about that. I'm not saying that I shouldn't join Chelsea, but there was a transition, you know. Ken Bates was selling the club, and it was a new era, you know, at the clubs with a new manager, with a new owners, with new players. So everything changed very quickly. But yes, when Alex Ferguson came and phoned me, and he said, "I'm going to call you again before Christmas." Well, I made the wrong way.
A big thanks to Emmanuel Petit there, Crookie, Angelina. Could you have imagined him in a United shirt? Crookie, I mean, was he someone that you really, really wanted to come to United? He said that he regrets not coming.
Yeah, I think he was a great player. When you look at not just what he did for Arsenal, but that France team that won the World Cup in '98 as well. Maybe not quite at the peak of his powers in 2001, but he would still certainly been a brilliant addition. You can't do it though, can you? You can't play for that Arsenal team right in the middle of the hatred they had for United and then cross enemy lines. I think that would have been a bridge too far for Petit.
Yeah, I mean, he would have taken some stick, wouldn't he, Angelina? But, you know,
Yes.
Robin van Persie, he did it, you know, he
True.
did it. But obviously that wasn't that close. Now it's time to preview the game for Wednesday. Manchester United taking that trip down to the Emirates. Now, let's get stuck into the preview and predictions of one of the biggest games in the Premier League, Arsenal versus Man United at the Emirates. And in the interest of balance, we're going to allow a spokesperson from the opposition to the show today. So I'm delighted to welcome ArsenalVision podcaster and Inside Gooners panelist Clive Palmer to the show. Clive, thanks for joining us, mate. It's going to be a massive game at the Emirates. Arsenal are flying right now. United have a new manager bounce. Is this set up to be a classic?
Yeah, they're normally good games, aren't they? I mean, Manchester United, no matter where they are in the world, no matter what state they're in, when they come to Arsenal, they wear their best clothes and put their best performance in. They never turn up without being focused for it. And they don't always win, but the attitude is normally pretty good. So it's going to be a tight game, but I'm looking forward to it.
But that's just it, Clive. I'm not going to lie, mate. I hate this game because we haven't won at the Emirates in absolutely ages. And we, you know, some of the games are a bit closer than others, but we really, really, really do struggle. I mean, on your team, Arsenal, Clive, how impressive you've been with them in the last sort of three or four games? You know, Odegaard back in there, the goals are flying in, and just how much pressure is on Arsenal to win this game, considering, you know, the gap between yourselves and Liverpool, and you want to remain in this title race?
Yeah, there is pressure, and we all know that another slip would probably be broken cannons all over the back pages of newspapers, and so we know that's coming. I think it's an interesting time to play Manchester United. They've just found a little bit of confidence with quite a big, you know, home win, and they haven't had a home win at that size for quite a while. I see some real parallels between Arsenal and Manchester United, actually, because I don't see two other teams that get their systems and set pieces analysed more than Manchester United and Arsenal. I think the whole country's become a back three expert. You know, all of a sudden, every article is about Manchester United's system. And Arsenal, as soon as we, you know, go anywhere near a corner, everyone's trying to analyse that. So I feel a bit of sympathy. I don't see the same analysis for Liverpool, shall we say, but I'm going to say no more than that. and so, yeah, I find them very interesting. I think I went to Sporting last week, actually. So I got to see Amorim's system live and direct and what we did to it. And I think he made a point about not having enough athletes in the team. That's a really good point. And when you play a back three, you look for two things, right? You look for comfort in build-up. Normally, most teams have a front two, and you build up in a three. Manchester United got a very good goalkeeper with his feet, so you can see what could happen there. And you look for defenders that can manage space. I'm not sure Manchester United have defenders that manage space. And on build-up, I still think it's a work in progress. And what Arsenal did very cutely last week, they pressed in a 4-2-4, had 4 narrow, and they said to that 3, do you want to play through us? And Sporting didn't, and I'm not sure Manchester United can. So I do see a very aggressive pressing game, particularly in the early phases. And Manchester United can play through. They have got the talent and the pace in the top end of the pitch to really turn us around. So watch that first 20 minutes. I think it could be really hot.
Yeah,
very hot.
Absolutely agree with you there, Clive. I mean, Crookie, from our perspective, you know, this is a huge test very early on for Ruben Amorim and these Man United players in this new system, in this new idea. Are we going to find out just exactly how well they are taking to the new system and new instructions, given it's against, you know, a top team in Arsenal?
It's a massive step up, isn't it? You know, Ipswich, for me, probably are going to go down. Everton are absolutely dreadful. Bodo Klimt actually caused us some real problems in that European game at times. So United are going to have to raise themselves to a level that we probably haven't seen this season. I'm worried there by the fact that Arsenal found it so easy to play against Amorim's system in Lisbon. I haven't
Amorim wasn't
taken
there.
that into account.
He wasn't there himself.
No, he wasn't. he wasn't. I think that's why I airbrushed it out of history. But I was at the Emirates actually when Amorim did a job on Arsenal in the Europa League and knocked them out of that competition with Sporting. So that gives me a little bit of confidence. But like you, this is a fixture that I don't particularly enjoy anymore. Our record at the Emirates is poor, to say the least. My missus is a massive Arsenal fan, so it's always a quiet 48 hours before and after the game. And, of course, we pulled them out of the hat in a really difficult FA Cup draw as well. If you offered me a point now, and if you offered Ruben Amorim a point now, I think we both bite your hand off.
Absolutely. And I don't want to sound defeatist or trying to take the pressure off, but I think we were so early in our development, and this is ideally, if you're being honest, this is probably a game that's probably a bit beyond us this early. But we've got some confidence going into it. We're third in the form table currently, which is not bad.
Yeah.
What do you want to see us go toe to toe with Arsenal in the image of what the manager wants us to be, or would you rather see us adapt, be a little bit more pragmatic, feel our way into the game, and show glimpses, or do you want us to just be defensive and make sure we don't get humiliated?
I think probably the middle one there. I think you want to see a bit of pragmatism. I think that the overall thing is you just want to walk away with something positive and convincing. I agree. I would take a point. I think it's frustrating that we don't have Lisandro Martinez. We don't have Kobbie Mainoo. You know, that left of the 3 centre-backs, I don't know how that's going to work. I mean, Luke Shaw, I think, has played 98 minutes of football so far.
And he's going to have to play, yes.
As good as Luke Shaw is on his day, you know, he's not 100% probably at fitness that we would like. You know, watching the Everton game, I saw, you know, Ashley Young be able to sprint past Diallo. You know, if that's what we're bringing to the table, then, you know, the likes of Saka and Odegaard and things, that really, you know, it does concern me. I think one of the things, if I'm grasping at straws, is that some of the fixtures at the Emirates recently, it's been because of last-minute goals.
Yeah.
It's not like we've been, and maybe people can argue this, but I don't think it's that we've been completely outplayed off the pitch. I think it's a case of, you know, lapses in concentration and things. So I would like to think Amorim has done his homework, and I think it's about having that focus and being able to adapt in that this is Arsenal. They are a very good side. You look at the amount of goal scorers they've got. They come from all angles. It's not just Saka and Odegaard. So I think we have to be aware of that and we have to adapt accordingly. And I think it'd be interesting. I don't know is this a game for somebody, you know, I know we've spoken about Xirkzee. Me personally, do we need a bit more pace? Is this a game for somebody like Garnacho? I think the main thing, though, as we spoke about with the Everton game, Abad Diallo has made himself undroppable, in my opinion. Yeah. So that's somebody that we need to see. You'd like to see Xirkzee in that game, perhaps. But I think it's going to be a very, very interesting one, but we cannot have that mistake. I think the concentration is going to have to be at completely different levels.
Yeah, I mean, a couple of stats for you guys here. Arsenal have won the last 3 Premier League meetings against United, and they've never won 4 in a row, so there's one to keep an eye on. Arsenal have won just 2 of their 17 Premier League evening kickoffs against Man United. And it's an 8:15,
That
I
is
think,
straw
extra time
clutching.
added on. So they don't like playing late at night, Clive, so they want to get to bed early.
Well, so, I think you could be clutching there a little bit, my friend. I
We've
think
got to hold on to anything we can,
Yeah.
Clive, anything. Man United have won 6 of their last 7 midweek Premier League games as well, so we're used to winning in the evening in midweek in the Premier League, Clive.
There you
I do
go.
want to ask you this, though, Clive. As a United fan, when I look at Arsenal, do I want to say the word petrified? I just have to be honest. I am really worried
Concerned.
very concerned
There we go.
about Arsenal's right-hand side and our left-hand side. Our left-hand side has struggled. Diogo Dalot has really struggled to acclimatise at left wing-back. Left centre-back between Luke Shaw and Martinez, they're trying to work out what's going on there, and now Martinez isn't going to play. And I look at Arsenal's right-hand side with Timber, and then the right 6 of either Partey or Jorginho, doesn't matter which one.
Yep.
Odegaard in that pocket of space, in that inside half space. And then the big man Saka. That frightens me. It frightens me. It really does. With Arsenal, your threats are all across the pitch. But is it fair to say that is your strongest side or your biggest strength away from the set pieces?
It is, and we do attack, we call it same side. We do work that side really hard. I mean, particularly in the first 70 minutes of the game when Saka's fresh, we do work him and get Odegaard into play, for example. I think Timber's offered something else. I think Ben White's a strong defender. He's a passing defender, so it's give and go, and he can go. But Timber can give and go, but Timber can also dribble. So when he gets the ball to feet, he looks like a midfielder as well. He looks like a winger. So he's got many layers to his game. So he's very interesting whether he plays right or left back. I think Havertz tends to step in and facilitate when someone moves out of their spots, and he offers an option to go a little bit longer and go over a press. So he's very important to us. And on the left-hand side, we'll probably have Martinelli on the day, probably standing on your outside centre-back, probably with Mazwari, I think, on the right-hand side. Mm-hmm. And he's a good full-back defender, but Martinelli can run him, and the threat of that speed will hold him back. And I think we'll own the territory. And it'd be interesting to see what happens, because you guys know better than me, but I think he made 5 or 6 changes on manager at the weekend. Yeah. And then he made 4 or 5 substitutes. That means he's in the period of discovery. He's looking at your team. He's looking at your players and where they play. So I'm not going to predict what the team's going to be. You know, I do think Rasmus will play. I do think Rashford will play, because you've got to play Rashford at the Emirates, because he likes the air down there, right? So you've got to play him. Yeah, don't worry. I was there.
Saka will probably be doing it and all.
Yeah.
I remember the final score, Flex.
Exactly.
And so I do think he's in a period of discovery. I think that's important. I mean, I'm not going to say we're going to win, because it's Manchester United. But if you guys don't win, I think you've got to learn something about your team. I think that's the most important thing in this period of time, where you are in your development. You've got a January window coming up. You need to find stuff out now. You know, it may be 3 points. It may not be, but you need to discover this now. I think it's really important. And we've been here. People laugh when we bought a bunch of 21-year-olds, but look at our squad value increase now. It's the largest in the world. You know, so we've been here, and with your owners, don't think they're not looking at the spreadsheets. They're looking at those numbers.
Arsenal must win this game. If they have any aspirations for winning the league or staying in the league race, they can't draw. They certainly can't lose. I think all the pressure is on Arsenal.
Yeah.
I think Manchester United, 4 games into a new manager at a place they historically do not travel well to, I think all the pressure is on them. Of course, we want to give a good account of ourselves, and it's not good enough to go there and get beat 4 or 5-0 and sent packing. That's not acceptable. But I think it's less acceptable for Arsenal to not get a win at home against this Man United side with where they are. I would definitely say that, from my opinion. Crookie, for you, don't want to get ahead of ourselves here. I don't want to lure you into anything,
Go on.
But what I'm just going to ask you, we are 6 points behind Arsenal. If we did win, 3 points behind, is it inconceivable to think that all of a sudden we could finish above Arsenal? We could get top 3, we could get top 4, or is that too early?
I think it's too early. I agree that this is a fact-finding mission at the moment for Ruben Amorim. I think he was asked the same question, wasn't he? Is it appropriate for the mighty Manchester United to not be being talked about as top 4 contenders, and I don't think many people are putting us in the top 4 bracket at this moment in time. I think what we're looking for here is a positive performance, the ability to go toe-to-toe or as close to it with a very good Arsenal team, second best team in the league for the last 2 seasons. I think we'll score, by the way. I think if you look at Arsenal defensively, they've not kept too many clean sheets of late. Both teams tend to score in a lot of their matches, and I think United have the weapons to hurt them. I think it's the other end that is a concern for the reasons you've already mentioned. One player we've not thrown in there yet, and he is going to travel, we know that because Amorim told us yesterday, is Lenny Yoro. And you look at the way that he's picked the team so far since he came in, he has sprung a surprise, hasn't he? Anthony playing as a wing-back in Europe in midweek, Xirkzee coming in at the weekend. I heard Ali McCoist and Jeff Stelling saying it'd be ridiculous to throw Yoro in to this type of game against this type of opposition.
Crookie? I mean, not played again compared.
Stranger things have happened.
Away at the Emirates here, our son have that, but then we saw, I suppose stranger things have happened.
Yeah, I think so. I mean,
sink or swim time for him. Why not chuck him in against the elite in the Premier League and see how he gets on?
I agree, because as well, like I touched on when Amorim has spoken, he said, doesn't take me long to figure out a player. And I think that the way that it sounds like Yoro has been training, he's been keeping a close eye on this guy. He already knows what he's about from the way that he's speaking about him. So again, if you're bringing in a big player for big money, who Real Madrid were apparently chasing after, then, what better occasion to put someone out there?
Wow, okay. Crookie, actually, before I come to Clive, would you be shocked if we won?
Yeah, probably. But it wouldn't be the biggest upset in history. We see upsets week in, week out in the Premier League. Who thought Tottenham would go to Man City and win by 4-0?
Yeah.
Who thought Nottingham Forest would be the only team to win at Anfield? So, is the gap between United and Arsenal as big as it was between Liverpool and Forest on that afternoon? I'd say it probably isn't. So, yeah, let's see. I agree with what you're saying. All the pressure.
I think Clive would beg to differ with that.
No.
Well, this is a free hit. It's a free hit.
It is a free hit. I agree with that.
It is a free hit.
It is a free hit. Clive, for you,
and I think we're capable.
Go on, Crookie. You think we're capable?
I think we're capable of going there and giving a really good account of ourselves, and let's see what happens.
Let's lock in the predictions. The talk is done. Let's put our money where our mouths are. Angelina, prediction.
I'm going to be so basic here. I am just going to... I can't ever sit here and predict a loss. In fact, I don't know if I've already done that, so I'm definitely not going to do it anyway. I think a 1-1 would be great.
Crookie?
2-1 to Arsenal.
Clive, surely you're going to go over an Arsenal win, aren't you?
Yeah, I don't want to be one of those arrogant Arsenal fans that everyone loves.
There's none of them.
But I do think, you know a few.
Just a couple.
So, yeah, I do think we win by 2 clear goals. I'm looking at 3-1. I agree, Crookie, we might concede 1, but I think we'll score 3 at least. So that's what I'm hoping for. 3-1 will make sorts of sense.
Yeah, the football side of everything, of the way we break this down, says it will probably be what Clive's saying. However, Manchester United 2, Arsenal 2. Guys, thank you for joining us. That's all we've got time for on this week's Inside Devils. A big thank you to Alex Crook, Angelina Kelly, Carl Anka, Ryon Scott-Douglas, and of course, Clive Palmer for their insights. And we'll see you, hopefully, with a win at the Emirates. How good would that be? Take care, guys.